Hi guys, Michael Abaimi here. Today, I'd like to talk about the next gen Nintendo Switch. Because recently, we've been getting a lot of rumors about what to expect from Nintendo's next hybrid console. So the original Nintendo Switch came out in 2017, and even as at then, it was based on hardware that had been available since the early to mid 2010s. This was basically hardware that was powering the tablets of the time, so as you can imagine, the capabilities of the machine have been fairly limited right out of the gate. But despite all that, Nintendo especially has been able to find ways to really push the hardware to its limits. You only need to look at a game like Tears of the Kingdom and the way he's able to create this vibrant open world that is even doing things that games on other platforms, competing platforms like PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X can't even do. Which just proves that you don't really need all the hardware and all the power in the world to be able to make such games possible. But that said, we also have to acknowledge the fact that most of those games have also started to show their age. Like a game like Tears of the Kingdom, for example, has been capped at 30 frames per second. And you just have to look at a game like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet to see the need for new hardware, because that's a game that pretty much ran poorly out of the gate and doesn't look like it's ever going to get a patch that will get it up to speed. So yes, a lot of people have been expecting Nintendo to show up with what is going to be their next system. And more recently, the rumor mill has really started to go, especially after Gamescom, where it is now being revealed that there were several behind closed doors demos held for the next system. According to information that was corroborated from sources from places like Eurogamer and VGC, several demos have been shown to developers, and one of these included what was described as a souped-up version of Breath of the Wild. From what was described, it was basically the current game as we have it, Breath of the Wild, but all the settings were dialed up. We're not really clear if this means 4K 60 or better draw distances or better texture quality, but from what was described, it appears that the new system, next gen Nintendo Switch, is going to be a lot more capable. In fact, another demo that was held was the Matrix Awakens Unreal 5 tech demo, which, if you can remember, this was a demo that came out in 2021 and really pushed and showed us what the PS5 and Xbox Series X will be capable of. And even up to now, it can even be argued that we haven't even gotten games that look as good as what that demo portrayed. So for the next Nintendo system to be able to do this out of the gates, that on its own sounds almost impossible, because we have to remember that at the end of the day, the next system is most likely going to be a lot like the current one. In other words, it's going to be a hybrid system. So it needs to be able to run portably as well as run docked when you get home and connect it to your TV. Which brings the question of what concessions did they have to make in order for these demos to be able to run? Or what sorcery or wizardry has Nintendo been able to cook up to be able to get such games to run on a mobile system? So you need to remember that even the current Switch has been able to run some games that were considered impossible ports. A game like The Witcher 3 comes to mind. This was a game that even became a meme at a point, that people actually thought that it would never be possible on the hybrid console, but here we are now. We got a port of the game, and of course, for the ports to run, the developers had to make like a lot of concessions. They had to like really dial back the settings. But at the end of the day, it's still The Witcher 3 and it's still running on the Nintendo Switch. So this next system already looks like it's going to be positioned in a way that it's even be in a better position to run more impossible ports and the like. But the thing that needs to be considered now is that for a game to be able to run games at that level of graphical fidelity, we have to like strike a balance between having good battery life and having raw power. What I'm saying is that something has to give. Like, it's either it has the raw power out of the gate and the system will probably end up lasting maybe like just 20 minutes before the battery drains, or they have to find a way to be able to like really crank up the visuals in certain scenarios or during certain playstyles. One thing that a lot of people are speculating is that it could be a case whereby the game runs at a much lower resolution while you're playing portably. But the moment you dock, the moment you put it on the dock might have some additional processing or even upscaling to be able to enable it to run at 4K. So that's one way of doing it, but then again, we still have no idea what's actually going to happen behind the hood. No actual specs has leaked out at this point. All we have to go by is the various demos that are actually taking place right now. Another game that was rumored to be running on the next gen Nintendo Switch is Final Fantasy VII Remake. So this was a game that came out on the PS4 in 2020, and right out of the gates, the system was really pushing that hardware to its limits, to the point that the game even had to make a lot of concessions and didn't end up looking its best until it would eventually get a PS5 port some several months later. So to be able to have this or something like this of this caliber running on a portable system It just remains to be seen, and it's something that I'm really hoping that all these rumors will pan out to be true. But of course, as it is currently, we don't have any definitive word from Nintendo, and I would always say that when it comes to rumors and leaks and things of that nature, you should take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Even though, yes, we want the potential best for the next system that comes out, but at the same time, you need to rein in your expectations and keep them tempered so that you don't wound up disappointed when it turns out that the system doesn't actually match those expectations. So me personally, I actually feel that yes, Nintendo really needs to have a system that can at least compete on a favorable level with the current crop of systems. Because initially, when news first came out that the next gen Nintendo system was imminent, a lot of people were speculating that it will have specs on the same level with the PS4. But the problem with that is that the PS4 is a system that came out over 10 years ago. This was a system that came out in 2013. And to now get a new system from Nintendo that is just finally managed to match that in 2024 or whenever it comes out, it sounds a bit like a downer to me. So I was always expecting them to do something that would be able to surpass the PS4, the base PS4 level of visuals. At the very least, I would expect something that can at least match or potentially surpass the PS4 Pro. But hearing that it will even be able to run games that the PS5 can't run, a lot of it immediately sounds like it's a bit too good to be true. But I'll remain cautiously optimistic and believe that Nintendo has the means to actually craft the system that'll be able to strike that balance between the two. It bears repeating that all of this is still rumors for now, as none of this has been corroborated by Nintendo itself. And while a lot of people are expecting Nintendo to make an announcement anytime from now, I would still say that we might not really hear anything about the system until next year, because you have to look at it that we're currently heading into the holiday season, and Nintendo has sales targets that it's intended to meet this year, this current fiscal year, with games like Super Mario Wonder and Super Mario RPG already slated to help boost some sales and everything. So them announcing a new system at this junction might not really help them hit those targets, as a lot of people will opt to wait and get the new system whenever it's available. So I'm suspecting sometime early next year we might get an announcement made by Nintendo for release sometime later in the year. As for price points, it's really hard to say, but I would say that Nintendo, knowing how successful the Switch has been, they wouldn't really want to shake things up too much, so they'll want to maintain that relatively affordable entry point at $300. So I can see it's going a bit higher, maybe up to $400, but anything higher than that, then it is no longer going to be considered an impulse buy the way the Nintendo Switch was for a lot of people. So this is why I actually think we might actually see a price point that mirrors what we currently have now with the Nintendo Switch, or at the very least still tries to maintain a competitive edge against the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. And in terms of raw power, I'm seeing it set to somewhere between what we currently have with the PS4 Pro and what is currently possible with the Xbox Series S. So if we can get a system that maintains the hybrid form factor and is able to land somewhere between that range, then yes, I would say Nintendo will be set for at least the next couple of years, well into the next generation. Anyway, these are just my thoughts about the current rumors and what we could potentially get out of the next gen Nintendo Switch. What do you think about all the rumors? Do you believe in any of it, or are you taking a wait and see approach? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed watching this discussion, or to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more discussions like this in the future. And until the next one, this is Michael, signing off.